could it be? Me, your man, Louie Tee. Welcome to the 2018 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series here on the Louie Tee Network. Of course, I'm your set man, Louie Tee. Thank you for joining me as I aim to break down all 32 teams in the National Football League's 2018 NFL Draft using our baseball grading scale. Single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the Draft Wrap-Up Series, as we cannot tell how these players are going to pan out. And I don't want to discount any of these young men before they get their chance in the National Football League. And so we'll get a score for each and every single player selected in the draft. Add and apply bonuses when necessary. Divide by the number of picks by that team in said draft, which will then yield us an overall grade for that team's draft. We'll then move on to the next team in the series picked by you, the viewers. And because you have spoken, the next team up in the series is the Atlanta Falcons. And this is a draft that I think is very pivotal for the Atlanta Falcons. This is a team that just 2 years ago made it to the Super Bowl and should have won. We all know about the epic collapse. The following year, I thought they had everything they needed, including the experience, the heartbreak that came the season prior to get back and this time seal the deal and finish the job. Instead, they fall to the eventual Super Bowl champions in the Philadelphia Eagles. And it wasn't the defense this time around that let them down. The defense was actually much improved in 2017. It was the offense that stalled out come playoff time. And so I thought the emphasis still would be on the defensive line. Taven Bryan looked damn good to me, and I thought he'd be a great fit for Dan Quinn's defense. However, they elected to go offense, and you can't go wrong with what they decided to do at the top of this draft. And they're even drafting for the future, which I think is kind of redundant and goes without saying. That's what you do in the draft. You draft for the future. But I think the Falcons took that to heart and literally are drafting because they know guys are coming up that they're not going to be able to resign, that's probably going to command some attention on the free agent market, and they're looking to fill those voids before they become available. And so it's an intriguing draft. We'll break it down, but we're going to start with the guy that headlines this draft as their first pick, 26th overall, wide receiver out of Alabama, Calvin Ridley. So I'm not going to break down Calvin Ridley because I've already done so in the Draft Prospects 101 series. And even their next selection in the second round already broke him down as well. So if you're looking for extensive breakdowns of these top two draft picks for the Atlanta Falcons, check out the playlist, Draft Prospects 101, 2018 NFL Draft Prospects 101 series on the Louie Tee Network. I will give you a quick synopsis of both of these players. Right now, I'm going to talk about Ridley quickly, what he brings to the table for this Falcons football team. I thought he was the best receiver in this draft class. What does that really mean? It means that he's a really good football player. Is he a true number one wide receiver? I don't know about that. I don't really think so, but guess what? He doesn't have to be. I don't think there was a true number one receiver in this draft per se. Maybe one or two may evolve and come out of this group. We haven't seen an elite group of receivers in the first round be taken since 2014. We've seen some hard times come on the wide receiver position in the first round. A lot of injuries, a lot of lackluster performances, and the receiver position is one of the tougher ones to learn in your first year in the NFL to begin with. Anyhow, nonetheless, this guy in Calvin Ridley brings a rare combination of speed, quickness, and the ability to snatch the football out of the air. His route running ability is off the charts. He's going to come in, and I think he's going to be a great compliment to Julio Jones, who's looking for a new deal in Atlanta. Something has to be done there. Really, he has no leverage, does Julio Jones, yet. We'll see what happens with that situation, but one thing's for sure, that could be one of the most lethal 1-2 combinations in the league with Julio Jones and now Calvin Ridley. And don't forget about Mohamed Sanu. And you also drafted another receiver later on in this draft that may come in and maybe fill the void that, say, a guy like Taylor Gabriel left when he took off in free agency for Chicago. So this is a team that's looking to evolve offensively. And I thought that teams got smart and they figured out, look, if we take away Julio Jones, and force the rest of those guys to beat us, we'll have a great shot at defeating the Atlanta Falcons. And that's what teams did towards the end of the season. They're going to be less likely able to do that with a guy like Calvin Ridley now on this roster. So I understand the thought process. Even though a guy like Taven Bryant, who I thought was a perfect fit for Dan Quinn's defense and probably one of the better defensive linemen in this draft, was on the board and available, I understand the need to go out and supplement the receiver position and get a guy across from Julio Jones that isn't a possession receiver a la check, 1, 2, 1, 2. Guess who? Mohamed Sanu. But rather a guy that can stretch the field vertically just like a Julio Jones can, but also break you down on 3rd and 6 and win immediately and move the stick. So you get a guy that can do a number of things, offers you some blazing speed and quickness to win immediately, but the speed to take it the distance and get over the top. And so this gives this Falcons offense a dimension they've lacked since the heyday of Roddy White and Julio Jones, both in their primes. So I love the selection. And so in the first round, 26th overall pick, wide receiver out of Alabama, Calvin Ridley is...
Hits one high. Hits it deep. It is out of here.
So you move on to the second selection in this draft for the Atlanta Falcons, and I thought this was an absolute steal. I questioned why this guy was even still on the board. I thought maybe something's wrong. Maybe there's something wrong with his physical. I don't really know why he was around this late into the second round. To me, he was the best corner in this entire draft. Okay, so in my estimation, and again, this is just my humble, honest opinion, the Falcons got two of the best players at their respective positions in this entire draft with their first two draft picks, and they're picking at the back end of every round because of how good they were the season prior. So to get this kind of value this late into the second round, you got to feel pretty damn good if you're the Atlanta Falcons. I'm talking about second round, 58th overall selection, cornerback out of Colorado, Isaiah Oliver. So again, as I mentioned before, I'm not going to break down Isaiah Oliver because I've already done that in the Draft Prospects 101 series. But what I will say about this guy is his combination of length, size, and as you can see, the 190, that's inaccurate. I did that before we got the actual combine weights. This guy's 201 pounds at 6'1", with some length, with the ability to run. He ran a 4.5 flat. This guy can run. He's got length. He looks for the football. The only thing I question with Isaiah Oliver is ball skills. Can he make teams pay for coming his way? With all the talent the Falcons have at the cornerback position, teams are going to try Isaiah Oliver when he gets into the football game. Will he be able to make them pay for some mistakes? That's the only thing I question with this guy. But if you're talking about a guy that's going to make plays on the football in terms of knocking it away, a guy that's going to look, locate, and contest, a guy that's going to come up and support in the run game as a tackler, a guy that's going to do everything you're looking for and give you a little bit of versatility as a punt returner as well as a little cherry on top, you're talking about Isaiah Oliver. And I was really surprised, shocked, amazed that this guy was around at the 58th selection in the second round. But everyone else's loss is the Falcons' gain, and you got a hell of a football player here in Isaiah Oliver. And so I've said all of that to say this. In the second round, 58th overall selection, Colorado cornerback Isaiah Oliver is...
Hits one high. Hits it deep. It is out of here.
So back-to-back jacks for the Atlanta Falcons to start off their 2018 NFL draft. Very, very impressive to say the least. As we move on to the third round, 98th overall selection, South Florida defensive lineman Deadrin Senat is the selection. So looking at Deidrin Sanat, here's a guy 6 foot, 314 pounds. I was looking for a defensive lineman maybe a little earlier in this draft, but you solved that problem here in the 3rd round. And I was intrigued by Sanat. When I put on the tape, I thought I was walking into a Grady Jarrett clone, undersized, squatty, small, but physically built and strong defensive lineman that'd be able to stop the run, but not probably going to get too much pressure on the quarterback. I was wrong, and that's a good thing. And so you look at this guy, 35 reps of 2 1/4. Anytime you get into the smaller, shorter armed guys, it's not uncommon to see a ridiculous number like 35, but still got to get it up, get it down, and he was able to do it 35 times, so that shows you the raw strength that this guy possesses. 7 career sacks, but 6 of them came in 2017, so that's encouraging, and that's what I'm talking about when I say this is a guy that can impact the game from a pass rushing standpoint. I want to see more of that. I don't think I saw enough of it. I want to see more of it, but this is a guy that can impact the game, not just as a run defender, but also as a guy that can get after the quarterback. 23.5 tackles for loss in his career says that this guy also plays on the opposite line of scrimmage. So you look at his pros, his measurables at 6 feet 314. You could look at that as a con if you like. That's a positive for me. I like smaller guys on the interior because they win the leverage battle a lot of times. They're able to get up under these behemoth offensive linemen's pads, and they're able to, at least at worst, stand their ground and not be pushed back and moved. When you're taller, it's easier for guys to get up under your pads. And when you have a shorter, lower center of gravity, you're able to then win that battle if you know how to use your leverage correctly. So I don't have a problem with his measurables. His athleticism, he's actually a lot quicker than I thought. Again, I looked at him and I said, I don't see a lot of here initially, and I was wrong. You know, you watch the tape, and I watched him in 3 games. I watched him against Houston in 2017, where he just dominated in the bowl game, his final collegiate game. I watched him against UCF. I watched him against ECU. All of these games coming in 2017. So you look at his athleticism. He can move for a big guy. He can move. When he gets tired, not as much. But what do you expect from a 314-pound man? But nonetheless, hand usage, I think, is one of his best attributes. This is a guy that uses his hands extremely well. And that's what's going to win him some battles up front. That's what's going to get him pressure on the quarterback. That's what's going to get him those tackles for losses, is his ability to use his hands. The swim move is legit. That's what he wins with oftentimes than not. But then sometimes when you see him collapse the pocket, it's him going with that sumo technique where you're just kind of using those hands to get your way back into the quarterback and really get into the body of that offensive lineman, keep him off balance, and continuing to use your hands to push him all the way back. And so his hand usage is pretty good for a guy coming out of college. A lot of these college defensive linemen and edge rushers don't use their hands very well. Deidrin Sanat is not one of them. So Deidrin Sanat is one of those guys that actually has the ability to use his hands and use them well going into the NFL. Awareness, he's got solid awareness, sees what's going on around him, sees when ball carriers are approaching the line of scrimmage, know where they are. He will bite the bait and chase the cheese on play action fake sometimes, so you can get him on that. But he's very aware of screens and things of that nature. He sees where he's being set up, and he sniffs those out. So I like his awareness in that regard as well. Point of attack, physicality. This guy stands up at the point of attack, and you're not really going to move this guy off the spot. The question is, can he disengage a little bit better, stack and shed, get to the ball carrier a little bit better? I think he can improve in that facet of his game, but as far as standing guys up at the point of attack, Deidrin Sanat is going to do that all day long. Ability versus the run. I saw this guy have an impact, stopping running backs, blowing up plays, may not make the tackle, but it was him and his initial penetration that really thwarted a run. So his ability versus the run, I think, is top-notch. Pass rushing ability, I think he can get even better at that. But right now, him coming into the league, I think he is on the up and up, and he's getting better. Like I told you, 6 of his 7 career sacks came in 2017. So he's getting better as a pass rusher, and I think he's got even more room for growth. So I like the fact that I think this guy could be a 3-down player at the next level. Tackling ability, when he gets his hands on ball carriers, he generally gets them down on the ground. So I like his tackling ability as well as his motor and endurance. Again, he's one of those guys that needs to cycle in and out of the lineup. He's not going to continuously play every single down. He needs to come off the field. If he stays on the field one play too long, you're going to notice the difference between when this guy is fresh and ready to rock and roll. So I think his motor is fine. So is his endurance. But again, you don't want this guy on the field for 11 straight snaps at 314 pounds. But then again, how many guys at that weight do you want on the field for that many consecutive snaps? Impact on the game. Now, this is key for me with defensive linemen, because the fact that a lot of defensive linemen don't get the credit that they deserve sometimes, because what we are in now in our society, and we're in a day and age where everything is stat driven, everything is analytic based. And so we like to talk about guys based off of numbers, tangible things we can point to. Oh, he had 3 batted balls, 2 sacks, and 4 hurries. But we don't talk about guys impacting the game. You blowing up a run play by getting in the backfield and forcing a guy to cut it back before he wants to right into your help. Or you not getting to the quarterback, but you being the guy that forces the quarterback to step up in the pocket and walks right into a sack. And so what's your impact as a defensive lineman on a game? How do you change the game? Does it always show up on the stat sheet with defensive linemen? No. And that's what I want to gauge. And I watched him versus ECU pressure the quarterback continuously in that game and creating for others. I don't know if he even had a sack in that game. He may have had a sack, he may not have, but I can tell you this much. I saw at least 3 or 4 different quarterback hurries in that game. And that's how you want to impact the game as a defensive lineman. Knifing into the backfield, making plays on the other side of the line of scrimmage, blowing up run plays. That's what I saw him do in that ECU game. I watched him destroy Houston, and that was actually tangible. 3 sacks in that Texas Tech bowl game. That's the kind of production you're looking for. And so this is a guy that can provide you with that. And I think he's only going to get better. But you look at some of his cons. He doesn't redirect very well. But again, 314 pounds. I'm not looking for this guy to stop, start, change directions. He's not a running back. So that doesn't shock me that he doesn't redirect all that well. But when I look at Deidrin Sonat, my thing is, I went back and forth as to whether this guy was a double or a triple, because on one hand, I can see this guy being a 3-down player and generating pressure on the quarterback. On the other hand, I could see this guy being a Grady Jarrett 2.0. And there's nothing wrong with that. Grady Jarrett is a really good football player, but he doesn't really impact the game from a pass rushing standpoint. And do you really need another one of those guys that isn't getting to the quarterback from the interior but can stop the run? That's why Taven Bryan was so intriguing to me earlier on in the draft. But nonetheless, I'm interested to see how Deidrin Sonat evolves and how his game takes shape as he gets to the next level. But all in all, like the pick, 3rd round, 98th overall selection, South Florida defensive lineman Deidrin Sonat, for me, is So we move right along to the next selection in this draft for the Atlanta Falcons. And this one is intriguing on a number of different levels. And let's just jump into it first, and then I'll explain on the other side. But 4th round, 126th overall selection, running back out of Southern Miss, Romarius Smith. You know him. as Ito Smith. So 5'9", 205 pounds, out of Southern Miss, Romarius Smith, a.k.a. Ito Smith, is really intriguing to me. So here's the dynamic. Remember at the top of the show, I talked about the Falcons drafting for the future. Here's one of those selections here where you look at a guy that's going to be a free agent in the upcoming season, offseason, in Tevin Coleman. He's going to be gone. I don't think the Falcons are going to try to match what it's going to take. They already paid one of their running backs, and they're not going to pay the other one. They're looking for some cheap labor. Enter in Ito Smith. And so Tevin Coleman is probably playing his last season as an Atlanta Falcon. Okay, fine. I thought the Falcons tried to draft a clone of Tevin Coleman last draft when they selected Brian Hill in like the 5th round out of Wyoming, but he didn't make the team, and he was subsequently picked up by another NFL team off of the Falcons practice roster, and so they had to do it again. And Brian Hill looked more along the lines of a Tevin Coleman guy, longer frame, bigger back. Ito Smith is more in the mold of your starting running back, and it's interesting to look at his frame, and you look at the frame of Devontae, your starting running back, Devontae Freeman, and they're very similar. And, Tevin Coleman is more of an upright guy. So I was interested to see, the dynamic here and what this guy brings to the table. And Ito Smith he's very intriguing. He's fascinating. 22 reps of 2 1/4, 4.5 flat 40. So speed is solid for him. That's a pro. 4.5, nothing to bat your eye at. Quickness, he's very quick, can make guys miss out in space. He has some acceleration. I watched him have an 89-yard run for a touchdown versus UTSA. And the reason that's notable is because they have Marcus Davenport on their team. But nonetheless, 89 yards, that's a long way. And I know it's UTSA, so take it with a grain of salt, but it's still an 89-yard touchdown run. You still got to find a way to run away from everybody, and he did on that particular play. He's got solid agility. It doesn't knock your socks off, but it's good enough. He's got solid vision. Again, nothing special, but it's good enough vision that it'll be a weapon for him at the next level. Make you miss. He can make you miss. He's got a little bit of MYM. It's not dynamic. It's not the kind that's going to change the game per se, but it's, again, enough to be effective at the next level. Toughness and durability. He played in 51 out of 52 career collegiate games, so it doesn't miss a lot of time, and that's what you're looking for out of your running backs. Receiving ability. That's one of his biggest attributes is his versatility. This guy can catch it out of the backfield. He can run it. Because of his small stature, I don't love him as a pass protector. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I watched him run a wheel route up the sideline versus LSU. And just to give you a little bit of background, watched him against LSU in 2016. Watched him against Florida State in 2017. Watched him against UTSA in 2017. So against LSU, watched him run a wheel route out of the backfield, right up the sideline. Nice catch. Took a shot, held on to the football. So he can catch it out of the backfield, and he can run a diverse amount of routes coming out of the backfield. So he's not just a guy that's going to run the swing route out of the backfield or the check down over the middle of the field. He can do some things out of the backfield as a premier pass catcher. So that's something to keep your eye on there. He's aware, knows when to get out of the backfield. Okay, I don't have to stay in for protection. Let me get out and get into the route and give my quarterback another eligible receiver to get the football to. Stamina, snap volume. He was the man at Southern Miss. So he got a ton of touches, catches, carries, that sort of thing. Kickoff return man. So he touched it a bunch. So his stamina is outstanding. I talked about the versatility, but I'll reiterate that he's extremely versatile back, can catch it, can run it, offers you some kickoff return ability if need be. So he does a lot of good things in that regard. And then he's got solid leg drive. Again, not going to knock your socks off. You've heard me say that enough with him already, but I'm not going to knock your socks off. He's got enough leg drive that on a 3rd and 1, if he gets stalemated, if that guy doesn't have extreme power, he might be able to power forward it and make it interesting as to whether he got the first down or not. So we go from all those pros to some of his cons. I already told you I don't love him as a pass blocker. He's just so small. He's willing. He's just so small. Guys are just dump trucking him, just running through him. And so that's something that, I don't know if he's going to be able to rectify. He's just a small guy, and some guys are built low to the ground and they know how to use their size to their advantage. I just don't see it with Ito Smith, a.k.a. the Judge, as they called him at Southern Miss. Patience. I think he's one of these guys that just wants to get to the line of scrimmage immediately and make a play. And sometimes he's too hasty getting to the line of scrimmage, doesn't allow things to develop, doesn't allow guys to make their blocks, to set up rushing lanes. And so he takes a carry that could ultimately be 4 or 5 yards and it only gets 1 or gets back to the line of scrimmage because he lacks the patience that you might like him to have approaching the line of scrimmage. And then finally, the biggest con for Ito Smith is ball security. Here's a guy with 11 career fumbles, lost 8 of them. And it's not like he lost a ton of these back in 2014 or in 2015. This was spread out throughout his career. He's a habitual fumbler, a guy that will put it on the carpet. And his team, as you heard, not getting back a large % of these fumbles. And we know sometimes the bounce of the ball can go any which way, but 11 career fumbles, you lose 8 of them. That's not music to anyone's ears. He's going to have to be a lot more careful with the football. He's going to have to put it away. That's something that the Falcons don't generally have a problem with their backs. Devontae Freeman has taken care of the ball since coming. Well, he had some issues last year, a couple of fumbles, some big ones too at that. But for the most part, Freeman's been pretty sturdy with the rock. Same with Tevin Coleman. Ito Smith's going to have to come in and have better ball security. We'll see what happens with that. But needless to say, this is a solid running back here. And I think he's going to end up being the replacement for Tevin Coleman when it's all said and done. In the 4th round, 126th overall selection. Southern Miss running back Ito Smith for me is a As we mosey along this Falcons draft, here's another guy that's a replacement for another player, but unlike the last selection that we talked about, who's a replacement for a future loss, this guy comes in as a replacement for a current loss in this offseason. I'm talking about 6th round, 194th overall selection, LSU wide receiver Russell Gage. So the Falcons lost wide receiver Taylor Gabriel in the offseason due to free agency. And so that's a guy that took the top off the defense. That was a guy that was the hitch, wide receiver screen guy, get it to him quickly, jet sweep guy, make something happen, let's get it into his hands quickly. Russell Gage can do all of those things. He can take the top off the defense. He can run your jet sweeps. As a matter of fact, he was a jet sweep specialist at LSU, as we'll get into his breakdown here, and I'll explain further. And this guy is one hell of a special teams player. If nothing else, Russell Gage is going to make this team just based off of his special teams prowess. So there's a lot to like here with Russell Gage as a 6th round pick, and we'll see if he's able to crack this Falcons roster or not. But he's got everything you're looking for from a versatility standpoint to be able to make that happen. You look at his size at 6 feet, 184. Not the greatest size. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but he's got solid hands, okay, as his first pro. They didn't throw it much at LSU. We know about the deficiencies at the quarterback position. They've had them for quite some time. They relied heavily on their run game, and when they did throw the football, Russell Gage was one of the guys that they would throw it to, and he caught the football very well, would go down and dig it out. Had a diving stab for a touchdown that I watched. He's a guy that can track it in the air, so he's got pretty solid hands. His speed is something that is going to be his calling card, whether on special teams or on offense. This is where this guy's going to make his living, is running by people. 4'4", 240, 39-inch vert, 10-2 broad, shows you the explosiveness that he brings to the table. This is what this guy does. And so speed is going to be what wins the day for Russell Gage. Quickness, suddenness, he's got to work on his routes a little bit better and make those crisper, more sharper. He needs to be more sure of what he's doing, but nonetheless, he's quick. And so if he can just get the decisiveness down, understand zone, man, and what is called upon for him to do in particular situations, he'll be much better because of it. But he's got the quickness and suddenness that you need from a guy to win on any given route. Acceleration, I don't really need to elaborate there. The guy runs a 4.42, so you know this guy can fly. You go to his run after the catch. This is not a guy that you saw a ton of run after the catch out of, but the fact that he had so many jet sweeps at LSU is almost like run after the catch because he got so many touches on jet sweeps. I think he had 26 catches in 2017, and I think he had just as many carries, about 28 of them in terms of jet sweeps on the season. So there was a lot of opportunities to see this guy run with the football in his hands. He likes to jump. I hate the fact that he always is looking to jump over people, but nonetheless, you do get a little bit of run after the catch with Russell Gage. His ability to track the football in the air is really solid. You see him catch the football over his shoulder. I saw him make a diving stab in one game. So this is a guy that can make some things happen, can make some plays. And again, he's only going to get better. He's extremely raw wide receiver, and I'll explain here shortly, but he can track the football. Versatility, it's probably his biggest trait and attribute to date. And if he makes this roster, it'll be because of his versatility. Here's a guy that is an ex-cornerback, a wide receiver, gadget guy, so you can run the hitches, you can run the wide receiver screens, you can run the jet sweeps, reverse, double reverse, those types of plays with him. That's what they did with him at LSU. And then he is a dog on special teams. So just that alone is going to give him a realistic shot of making this Falcons roster. Saw him make a beautiful catch on the sidelines versus Texas A&M in 2016. So this is a guy that is aware of the sidelines, can pull it in on the sidelines. So like his sideline awareness. And so that's all of the pros with Russell Gage, but there are plenty of cons to probably match every single one of those pros that we just mentioned. You start with his measurables at 6 feet, $184. How is that much different from Calvin Ridley and his 6 feet, $188? Not much difference other than you saw with Ridley the ability to make things happen as a receiver and be a little bit more stout in some situations. You didn't really get to see that with Russell Gage. He actually looks like a cornerback more so than a receiver at times. So his measurables does leave a lot to be desired. His route running ability, no. And again, ex-cornerback. He came to LSU as a cornerback recruit. The first 2 years on campus, he was a cornerback. It wasn't until his junior season that he made the switch to receiver, got on the football field there, and then it wasn't really until his senior season where he actually got real legit snaps at receiver, caught some passes and made plays as a receiver. So you're talking about a guy that really only has one true year of being a receiver, and so his route running isn't up to par. LSU doesn't have an extensive route tree. They didn't have the best quarterbacking. You understand where this is going. So he's got a lot of room for growth as a receiver, as a route runner. His physicality, he's lacking. Again, physicality and blocking to me go hand in hand in this particular instance because he's got the mindset of a corner. He's got the body of a corner, a slot at that. He's just not physical enough to help you in the run game as a blocker. And physicality-wise, he's trying to jump over everybody. He's not lowering his shoulder and running through tackles. So, again, he's a $184. What do you expect from Russell Gage? Toughness, I think he's a lot tougher than I give him credit for, even though he's a $184. It takes a tough individual to run down as a gunner and make plays on special teams, and this guy's willing to do that. So I won't penalize him for his size with toughness. But leaping ability, high point in the football, and catch radius, they aren't tremendous. Again, he's a smaller guy, and so his stature and plus the inability to see him in situations where he had to go up and climb the ladder. Again, quarterbacking wasn't the greatest. I don't know if that's something that he does really well right now. So those are things that I look at right now as things he's going to have to work on at the next level if he wants to become an integral part of this Falcons offense. And then finally, production. I really don't want to hold this against him, but not a lot of catches. Not a lot of collegiate production as a receiver because of the situation, him coming to school as a corner, spending 2 years as a corner before making the convert over to receiver, and then really having to wait until his senior year to get on the field, and then not having the greatest quarterback nor the offense to really accentuate his skill set. They asked him to sacrifice being a receiver for really just running a ton of jet sweeps and a lot of ghost motions and things of that nature so they could just hand the football off to Darius Geis. So his production really wasn't much to speak of, and so really hard to assess where this guy is as a receiver right now because of the lack of touches in the offense that he was in and what he was asked to do. Nonetheless, I see potential for this guy to make plays in this Falcons offense. And with all the playmakers around, he's not going to be asked to come in and be a star. He's going to be a role player. And if he can play his role correctly, Russell Gage can not only make this roster, but be an impactful member of this Atlanta Falcons offense, but probably more importantly, their special teams. So in the 6th round, 194th overall selection, LSU wide receiver Russell Gage for me is this next pick may be the most intriguing of this draft. And to me, Dan Quinn is I talked about this over the last 2 years, along with your general manager, about the culture being set in Atlanta, especially on the defensive side of the football, okay? There's a precedence being set. These are the types of football players we're looking for. We're looking for fast. We're looking for physical. We're looking for guys that can flow to the football. We want as many hats to the football as we can get. We want them to get there fast, and we want them to get there physically with bad intentions. And that's what this next guy is. He's, to me, the quintessential Dan Quinn pick over the last 2 years, 3 years in the draft. This is what they've done in Atlanta, drafting fast, physical football players at the linebacker position. And I think this guy could even give you some snaps at safety if you like. But nonetheless, 6th round, 200th overall selection, Yale linebacker Foye Sade Alukin is the pick. So he goes by Foye for short. So we're going to go with Foye. But this is a guy here that 6'2", 215, so more of a safety frame. He's a basketball player. Actually played basketball at the same high school on the same team with future NFL first-round draft pick Ezekiel Elliott. They both played at John Burroughs High School together. And so he's more of a basketball player at first, made the transition over to the gridiron, and he found a home. And this is a guy with a safety build, played a little bit of safety at Yale, but really excelled at the linebacker position. And he's a really good athlete. He's a hell of an athlete. So I'm intrigued just off of that alone. Measurables, 6'2", 215. So that's his first pro. Good size for a safety, not necessarily a linebacker, but depends on how you deploy this guy. And I think he's got the ability to be a nice coverage linebacker in this league, a nickel dime type of linebacker in situations where you know, hey, look, I need a guy out there to run with this tight end, to run with this running back out of the backfield, to be able to cover in space against this slot receiver. This could be the guy that can fill that void for you in, Atlanta, help you on special teams, obviously. This guy has some versatility, and I think if I'm the Falcons, I first may take a look at him at safety. Yeah, give him a look-see there, see if he's fluid there, if he understands what we're asking him to do, how versed is he in getting that position down, and then also giving him responsibilities as a linebacker, which is what he's probably most comfortable doing. But nonetheless, speed at 4'4", 840 with a 37-inch vert. This guy is extremely athletic and fast, which reminds me of what the Falcons have been doing with Deion Jones, and the list goes on, and what they've been doing on that defense, at the linebacker position, at the safety position. This is what they've done over the last couple of years, building this defense into a bully. It's fast, it's physical, and they're ferocious. And this is another guy that can add to that. And again, I don't know if he's ready right now, because he played at Yale. Got to take that into consideration. He's somewhat raw, not always the best of instincts in terms of reacting to things, but his athleticism, acceleration, speed, all of those things make up for any hesitation that he may have. So redirect is awesome, off the charts. You look at what else he takes on blocks. For a guy that's 250, again, it's the Ivy League. So that offensive lineman, he's not 315 pounds. He's probably more like 270. So, yeah, he's taking on blocks, but it's the Ivy League, so you have to take that into consideration as well. But he's taking on blocks nonetheless. He's still 215, and that guy's still 270, 275, 280, 285. Still a huge difference in weight. And he's taking on these guys. Tackling ability, he's physical, man. He's looking to take your head off. He's looking to come in and blow you up. Does he always wrap up? No. But does he always run fast and physical to the football? You betcha. Man coverage, zone coverage, I thought he was outstanding at both. To me, if he's going to get on the field, that's going to be the fastest way for him to do it, is in coverage. I watched him in 2015, or was it 2014? It was 2014, I believe. Make a hell of a play versus Brown, where he dives and picks a football off about 15 yards down the field on a dig route. Man, was that gorgeous. Watched him against Princeton late in the season to clinch a piece of the division crown, pick off a pass late in that ball game to seal the deal. I watched him in both 16 and 17 versus Harvard. He's such a nice guy. You can tell he's from an Ivy League school. So, you know, most Atlanta Falcons players on the defensive side, they've got that mean streak. They've got that nastiness to them. They'll hit you, you know, and they want to be extremely physical. This guy's physical, but then there's a play against Harvard that really sums up how nice of a guy he is. So they're at the goal line. They make a stop, and he takes the offensive lineman and he jacks him up as the play is coming to an end. He jacks the lineman up, pushes him on top of the pile, and is elbowing him, gives him a nice shot, and then he realizes, oops, I'm an Ivy Leaguer. What am I doing? And he extends the hand. Hey, man, I'm sorry. And helps him up. What are you doing, guy? Come on. This is football. You can't jack the man up, extracurricular activity, and then help him up and realize, oh, man, I'm sorry, and help him up. Mid-play. Anyway. Blitzing capabilities. This guy can blitz as well. There's a lot to like here, and he's got tremendous range. Sideline to sideline type of speed. So, from that, again, the athleticism is what's going to win the day for Foye Oluokun. But you look at his cons, awareness. Like I talked about earlier, there's an element to his game where sometimes he doesn't trust his eyes. He doesn't go. He doesn't fire his gun. He wants to see it first before he reacts. And so he'd be so much more dangerous if he trust his eyes and was aware enough to know, okay, this is what's happening. Let me just go. And so he'll get that. I think with more film study, more time on the field, he'll be better at that. But that's something he's got to work on. Shedding and slipping blocks. He's 215, man. I mean, I told you he was taking on blocks earlier, but some of those guys were just destroying him. He's 215. So take it with a grain of salt. He wins a lot of times by using his athleticism to just defeat blocks by just beating them to the spot. But if they get their hands on him, they being offensive linemen, at 215, he's in a lot of trouble. So that's something else that you got to take into consideration is this guy's size. If you're not going to play him at safety and you're going to play him at linebacker. But I'll tell you what, man. This is as intriguing a pick in this Falcons draft as you will find. And so I'm excited to see, one, if this guy makes the roster. Two, his impact. What is his role? Do you try to play him at safety? Is he only a nickel dime linebacker right off the bat? How do you employ this guy? Because I see a lot of Keanu Neal in this guy. The ability to just do a lot of different things, be around the line of scrimmage, but can play in some coverage situations. I think he fits what Dan Quinn wants to do defensively, but is he just going to help on special teams right away? Is he even going to make this roster? His athleticism says you got to give this guy a shot. And so in the 6th round, 200th overall selection, Yale linebacker Foye Oluokun is so that's the Falcons draft in a nutshell. 6 picks. Dan Quinn, Thomas Dimitroff and company doing what they do best, continuing to build a bully on the defensive side. But I think they realized they had to make some adjustments on the offensive side. That's what really hurt them last year was the inability late in the season, despite being the number 1 third down offense in the league, their inability to put the football in the end zone. Julio Jones had like 2 touchdowns the entire season. They need more big playability. They need someone to take the pressure off of Julio Jones, hence the selection of Calvin Ridley. You add in Russell Gage and some of the things that he'll be able to bring to the table from a gadget standpoint. You add another running back into the mix. We'll see what the Falcons can do offensively. Matt Ryan with his new contract in hand. See if this offense can get it going again and this defense continues to improve. Look out for the Atlanta Falcons as we give them a grade here on this draft wrap-up series. This is what they were able to amass. So that's going to do it for the Atlanta Falcons and their 2018 NFL Draft wrap-up. I'm your man, Louie Tee. Thank you for joining me on this program. Plenty more where this came from. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. make sure you get your team up next. Don't forget, use the comment section. Be there first. Use the phrase next and the team you'd like to see next. I'm your man, Louie Tee, signing off. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Louie Tee Network.